Hi, you guys. Um, Thank you for being here. So today we're going to talk about Moline, and I have a lot to talk about, but I'm going to try to speak a little bit slower because, man, do I talk fast. um, there is much to say. I have some notes, and I know what I want to say, and you will leave this video. Um, Let me speak for myself. Like when I heard that the plane went down and Prince overdosed, I was like, man, whatever. This is the beginning of the breakdown. And, since I had already heard something was going to happen when I heard the song Breakdown, it just clicked in me and I knew something was wrong. So um, I did a Moline video already, but I researched it some more. And also what I did, and I'm going to share with you by the end of this video, is I took the timeline because I have the video on here, the timeline, the 7th through the 20th. But what I did for this video is I took and thought, after all the research, what if there was no 7th and 14th and 21st? Because the evidence points us in a different direction. I'll share that with you in a minute. But what I'm saying is I'm going to show you and share with you all the discrepancies about this plane landing. And you can make up your own mind. I don't have to convince anybody. The truth will speak for itself. I told you and shared with you that there's a breakdown in place, a very specific, 63rd birthday egg, George GE or GE plan. So anyway, I'm going to give you a little background on Moline and what you need to understand is if it gets too confusing, and I'll try to keep it straight, it's because there's more than one landing. It's because of all the body doubles. It's because of all the fraud. It's because of everything that happened. So anyway, there's a couple of pilots. I told you Betchholt and Gallus. I always want to call them Goofus and Gallant because of those highlights magazines. But William Betchholt, he tells us, you guys, that he and Gallus, pilots Gallus, are employed by Lifetime Fitness. That's where Kirk was a personal trainer and was known to use the Dassault Falcon 990 LT to fly out both for personal training, and he would also fly out big groups of people when there were openings. That's what Betchholt tells us. So he says that he and Gallus both knew Kirk already because they'd flown with him before, and so interesting that Betchholt, he tells us that they prepped the plane and he departed at 2:30. And the thing that's really, really important for you guys to know is I'm in Michigan, so Minnesota is in Central Time. Georgia is in Eastern Time, same as Michigan. So when they do, and when you go to Moline, Illinois, I believe it falls right on the cusp of, I think it's in Central Time, but it's like where the three states come together, and they did that purposely. I just want to share one other thing with you about Moline. It's a screenshot. One second. Oh, don't let me get off track. No, because it is 365.6 miles from Paisley Park, Moline, Illinois is. So I found that interesting because it's almost 366, which was also like egg. So I wanted to say that before I forgot. Anyway, so William Betchholt and Gallus, they're both employees of Lifetime Fitness, which you guys, you have to wonder why they're flying around that. Anyway, they both said that they got their itineraries on the 13th, which they said that they knew they were going to be flying, who they were going to be flying on the 13th, which I find interesting because they want us to believe that Kirk ran around getting pain medication for Prince because he didn't know if he could do the concert and all that other stuff, but they knew on the 13th where they were going to be going. At least these guys did. Betchholt said that the three people, Prince, Kirk, and a young light-skinned female, which Judith Hill is not, only had 3 bags with them. And that's really interesting when you consider that Nancy, the, stewardess person, she said that when the 2 black SUVs pulled up in Atlanta and they started helping the passengers and their belongings off the plane, you have to wonder who the passengers and their belongings were, right? Anyway, you guys, Betchold, he said that Prince got off the plane. He didn't he didn't speak ever, and that he carried an umbrella. This is when they went to Atlanta. I'm sorry if I wasn't clear on that. He said that he left at 2:30, and they arrived about 5 p.m., that Prince got off the plane, carried an umbrella, didn't speak, and that a tall, thin black man in his 40s gave Prince a hug. The tall, thin bodyguard checked Gallus's phone for illicit photos of Prince. That's what William Betchold. This is important, you guys, because William Betchold, the pilot, testified to the fact that the thin, tall, 40-year-old man who hugged Prince also checked the phone for pictures of Prince from Gallus. But then when RENVILLE Wellington on the Justice Crew over there on YouTube, when he's being interviewed, he says that he checked Gallus's phone. And I don't think that he's tall, thin, and 40s. And somebody else had said they thought that was Larry Graham, the tall, thin 40s. So anyway, so that they flew out, all those things happened, that they returned and prepped the plane about 9, and that they left Atlanta about 10:30 p.m. That's what Betchold said. Now, why would he say they left at 10:30 p.m. if the second concert on the 14th was, I believe, at 11, wasn't it? If I'm not mistaken, or got over at 11. I have most of this memorized, but not all of it. So anyway, I found it odd that they could have left at 11. So again, they could be reporting in Eastern time or Central time, because they do it purposely, just like they use military time and regular time throughout the files. It adds to the confusion, which is why it's hard for me to tell the story straight. Now, Betchold said that, I think he said shortly into the flight that Kirk came running up to the front and said that Prince was passing out, and that Gallus grabbed a portable oxygen canister, ran to the back, and then they came down and beat the EMTs. Okay. He also said that policemen boarded the plane, but they couldn't fit the cot on, so then they got back off. Now, that's interesting, because here on this file, 160125559, contacted Moline, Illinois Police Department to try to figure out what hospital Prince was taken to on the emergency landing, put in touch, yada, yada, did not know what hospital it was, but would check into it. He said that the agency did not have anything to do with the medical event. You see, what they'll do, they'll interchange the words medical event and emergency landing. They do it all the time. And I'll get you to the conclusion. You just have to hang in there. I told you there's a lot to say. Now, you guys, Betchold tells a strange story, but what you want to remember from that is that they work for Lifetime. They know Kirk. And so why would either one of the bodyguards be asking? See, because what RENVILLE said is they wanted to make sure that nobody was taking pictures of Prince. The other people said that since Gallus and Betchold already knew Kirk from flying, he said that he was going to get his phone out to give Kirk his phone number so that he could contact them when they got ready to come back to the airport. And then that's when the cat walked up and checked his phone. So it's lies all over the place. So I try to expose them all. I'm going to get back on track. Now, you guys, Gallus, when he tells the story, he tells a different story. He actually gets out his flight tracking software from his smartphone. And according to Gallus, they departed Minneapolis at 2:32 and arrived at 5:30. They then departed Atlanta en route to Minneapolis at 12:51. And so then they say 12:51 hours Eastern time, and then they say 23:51 Central time. They purposely make the files very, very confusing. So it's messed up, is what I mean to say. So Gallus, he tells us that they've been in flight for an hour and 27 minutes, you guys, and that Kirk came up to the cockpit and told him that Prince was unresponsive. He's passed out cold. Okay. And that's when he grabbed the portable oxygen and went back to assess Prince. He said he told Betchold to start the descent and explained how private jets usually fly above what normal commercial airlines travel. So Gallus thought originally that Prince would have a reaction to the elevation, and sometimes dropping to a lower elevation can help. That's why I don't read these files, because, man, they're redundant. Blah, blah, blah. This isn't what I wanted to say. Now, that's where Nancy Fisher, she goes on to say that they all worked for Executive Jet Management, which, by the way, is another LLC. As I've mentioned, upon arriving in Atlanta, the plane was met by 2 black SUVs driven by 2 black males. Nancy thought the males were security, who assisted in getting the passengers and their belongings off the plane and into the SUVs. Now, she says that they took off at 1 from Atlanta, 1 a.m. Now, William Betchel had said they left at 10:30, but the second concert wasn't till 11. So you can see how many stories they have going on. And it's because of the files number 16000, and there's 1601, and there's a lot of different file numbers. So you guys, I want to read something to you, so bear with me. I went through my not only, you guys, did they tell these lies about what time the flights were and how everything happened, and then they later, when they say they're going through Kirk's phone, that they had to do his, they had to discern his phone records in UTC time for the time that he was unaccounted for, which was 12 hours. But we'll get there because I have the phone records and everything all broke down. I'm just trying to, and I get nervous, so bear with me, you guys. What I did is this guy had pulled a Freedom of Information Act, and it provided the DEA records for supposedly this file when they came. This is something that I shared on Facebook yesterday, and it's really, really important, you guys, because they show this supposed ambulance paperwork from Moline. Now, this one piece of paperwork identifies Prince as Prince, and it's spelled PRINCXE, and it's not a typo. It has an X in it. They list the address as 7801 Audubon, but they list it as Chanhassen, Carver, Minnesota. Not one other piece of documentation in the files lists it as Carver. So may not be the biggest deal, but every discrepancy. Now, bigger deal here. The date of birth is 6/7/1954. That makes this male subject 61 years old in 2016. Hi, kitty. The file goes on to say that the race and ethnicity are not applicable or unknown. I found that very unusual. Now, this patient who's 61 years old, 110 pounds, they deny any past medical surgery, which is interesting with the whole hip surgery. And according to the paperwork, the IV was inserted in the right forearm with a 20 gauge needle. Okay. Now, the next subject that the paperwork, the mix and match paperwork that the DEA provides, because again, they provide about 97 pages of 181 in this Freedom of Information. The next subject is listed as Prince Nelson. His birth date is 6/7/1959. He is listed as 5'4" and 117 pounds. And a phone number is even listed, you guys, on there of 612-805, and then the rest is blacked out. So now this patient, when you go through the paperwork, it says that the IV was started in his left arm. Yeah. Now, this paperwork, if you I pieced it together the best I could. You match it up based on what you're given. It says Prince Nelson is a 56-year-old man allegedly took 3 Percocet pills and a mystery pill from the Bayer bottle. He's also listed as a drinker. What I wrote is I said the identity has to be Kirk Johnson, as he was the one with the legal Percocet prescription in his name. Regardless of the media story, he got it for Prince. It was in his name. Now, the reason that's important is because the hospital paperwork that they gave us documented the Percocet prescription as take one every so many hours. Now, the hospital wouldn't document that as a legal prescription in that patient's name unless that was a legal prescription. And that prescription was in Kirk Johnson's name. That's how the whole Schulenberg-Kirk story was told. So, and another thing is that, and like they had the Bayer bottle there in Moline, which they all are, oh, here it is in Paisley Park. You know what I'm saying? So they had the Bayer bottle, and what they did is Dr. Mancha is known to look in the bottle and say, oh, these look like Vicodin. Here, take one to the pharmacy. They take one to the pharmacy, say, yep, it looks like Norco, and then they give it back. And that's the only time that Vicodin Norco hydrocodone is ever mentioned, is because they said that's what it looked like. Anyway, you guys, back to the paperwork and Kirk, I keep saying Kirk because, the identities. Also, it notes that there's a video of admitting time and entrance stored for documentation purpose as advised by blankety blank. According to the DEA, Kirk is seen on video carrying the black bag that he retrieved the Bayer bottle from. Not Prince Rogers Nelson, but Kirk Johnson, getting the bottle and doing all these things. So anyway, that victim is called Prince Nelson, like I said, with the birth date. And the other one, when I saw this one for this patient being 6/7/1954, 61 years old, it kind of blew my mind. Also, I put on my Facebook that the ambulance paperwork has said ALS ground transport. I took a little flack for that on Facebook because some lady even said that she read ambulance paperwork for a living and that meant all life-saving services. Well, that very well could be, but the reason that I was looking at it as a possible ALS or Lou Gehrig's disease, and the reason for that is because if you consider that is a brain-wasting muscle, well, it doesn't always waste the brain, but I'm not to that part yet. But it goes with the neuroscience of Andrew Kornfeld and being the psychopharmacology expert that he is. So we're not there yet. So not only, you guys, do we have two different pilot stories, very different times about what time they left and landed. Nancy, the stewardess, even said at one point that Kirk and Prince were hugging. And I found that interesting because as I said, I believe that, what's her name, Natalia Phillips, was playing a lookalike of Prince at the piano and a microphone tour as she took credit for print work. So Kirk Johnson, Natalia Phillips, I believe Marone was even in on it. Like I said, Jewel Roberts, everybody was in on it, but we're still in Moline. So one second, you guys. It's a lot. Now, what I did is because as I said before, aside from the spliced and diced files that we have, the proof that I've been presenting, all these there's no documentation whatsoever of a doctor's appointment or anything on the 7th, nothing whatsoever. There's nothing on the 14th except for the fact that Kirk conspired to get medication, and I'm gonna put the whole timeline together for you in just a second. And what it's going to show is I took and combined, all the times. And what I'm saying is, if somebody died on the 14th in Moline, it would kind of account for why the body was stiff on the 21st. So let me share that with you. Let me share that timeline. I'm not good at opening up my little windows yet. Now, you guys, let's just assume, just a minute. I got to get my window. I'm not good at it. All right. So this is what I wrote. On April 14th, I'm going to do it right down in the timeline that I have, and I'm really going to try to stay on track. 12:46. You guys, what I want you to do is assume with me that this was all the big breakdown that it is, and that somebody was so gung-ho on presenting a fake Prince to the world that they went ahead with these crazy body double lookalikes. And I've given you enough information. I'm about to give you some more of why this timeline fits together. And then, like I said, you can make up your own mind. I don't have to convince you. I forgot what I was going to say because it irritates me. Just a minute. Okay. So imagine with me, it was just one big timeline. So on April 14th, 12:46, Kirk contacts Dr. Boo. Okay. I'm trying to give me one more second because I know there's a way that I can put me and this on here because I'm just not good at it. Oh, doggone it. One more second. Bear with me. Where there is a will, there is a way. And that's not it. Hold on. Okay, here we go, I think. Okay, this is what I wrote. Thank you for hanging in there if you guys did. It's April 14th, okay, and 12:46, and this is what all the records and everything show. You can double check it if you want to. 12:46, Kirk, he contacts Dr. Boo, the dentist, okay. 103, Schulenberg contacts Kirk twice. Kirk didn't call Dr. Schulenberg on the 14th. He called Dr. Boo, and then about 15 minutes later, Schulenberg called him, okay. Now, at 9:03, we have a text showing us, it says, "Doctor, am I supposed to take all 3 of these meds? There are 3 bottles." At 11:51, after the, according to Gallus, at 11:51, 12:51 Eastern time, they depart. And at 12:10, overtime grind prediction, from Prince's computer on the plane, overtime grind production company is accessed at 12:10. At 12:12, Amy Stubbs, the photographer who took credit for those last pictures on the 14th, Amy Stubbs, her Twitter is accessed at 12:12. Now, according to Gallus, they were in the air for an hour and 27 minutes. And according to the Moline paperwork, it matches up. That would make them landing about 1:17 when the fire Moline paperwork says they were dispatched. And then they arrived at 1:26. Now, this is super important, you guys. According to the phone records, if picture with me, Kirk is pretending he's Prince or Natalia Phillips, one or the other. Now, this plane, the Dassault Falcon, goes down. Okay, they're in the air for an hour and 27 minutes. They come. Kirk's phone prior to the plane going down or landing was silent for 12 hours. It was silent from approximately 1:30 in the afternoon after he talked to Schulenberg until 1:32 a.m. when he called Kim Pratt / RENVILLE Wellington. As I've discussed with you before, every time Kirk's phone records are provided for him contacting RENVILLE Wellington, they also match up the records for Kim Pratt. The detectives in the file says that the first person that Kirk called after the overdose was Kim Pratt. That's disclosed, but what they don't disclose is those are the exact same phone records that match RENVILLE Wellington's on the Go phone. So I believe that's the body double there, RENVILLE Wellington KP, Kim Pratt RW. So interesting that Kirk's phone goes silent for those 12 hours, but at 1:32, he starts blowing up RENVILLE's phone, RENVILLE Kim, okay? That's because he plays body double. That's how he was able to be seen. Kirk was able to be seen on video in Bloomington on the 14th, and then getting on the plane and doing all the things I discussed on the other video. But anyway, so at 1:32, he calls Kim. And now Kim, if you listen to her story, she said that when she talked to Kirk, that Kirk said that Prince had the flu, and she asked if she should wait for the second plane. Okay. I thought that was kind of interesting, and now I know why. But the fact is that Kirk's still lying, about somebody having the flu, and there's the 1:32 after the phone being silent for 12 hours, which would be during the whole time that he was playing somebody else. So anywhere, Trinity, the paperwork that's provided from the DEA, 155, they show admission paperwork on what I believe was Kirk, because they provide the Percocet information. And like I said, a hospital wouldn't document that unless it was valid, I hope. But everything's pretty funky in this file, and not good funky either. Anyway, now listen. So Kirk lands, him and Natalia, they're playing body doubles. Even the EMTs, which I'm not going to get to right this second, but they described that they were dressed in gold when they got off the plane. That's what he says, they, not him, not her, they. So anyway, listen, so Kirk calls RENVILLE, the body double, at 1:32, and then and then they admit him at 1:55. Now, between 2:50 a.m. and 10:48 a.m., between the 14th and the 15th, there are over 20 texts between Kirk and Renville. And then there's some at 12:30, and then there's a huge amount of text, another 26 texts between 4:36 or to 4:46, I believe. I can't read my own writing. So, very, very important when you consider that Kirk was contacting what I believe to be the body double, and then at 3, there's a text email that says it feels like it went back in place. No need for him now. At 3:41, there is an email that says we have a doctor working all care in-house. At 4:40, Stephen Kagel from Aviation Lifeline is called. So what do? Do you take out another? Renville goes and gets another sickly prince and makes another plane landing so that there's 2 at the same time. 5:45, you guys, Kirk texts Schulenberg for fluids for Prince. 5:53, we're told that Andrew Kornfeld lands. Again, I'm combining the 14th and the 21st, the story that they gave us, but I'm putting it together as one story because if you do it this way, it all makes sense from the breakdown in Moline, if you ask me. Anyway, I lost my place. Oh, so they tell us at 5:53 that Andrew Kornfeld landed. Don't let me forget to remind you that we already disclosed that through the paperwork, Homeland Security said that Andrew hadn't been to Minneapolis in over a year, and then Andrew was known to have said that he had never been there before. So, doubles. Anywho's, 5:53 he lands. At 5:59, we have a text that says that would be a butterfly. I believe that was, I'm not sure. At 6:22, Kornfeld and Kirk, that's when we're told that Kornfeld and Kirk texted and called each other at the same time after the plane landed. We're told that Andrew landed. He picked him up because Kirk and Marone were said to have picked up Andrew at 5:53 when the plane landed. So at 6:22, Kirk's phone rang in and out to call Andrew, which is truly interesting because it's 6:22, which in little curly numbers is 666 because the 2s become the backwards 6s, or egg, EGG, George, GE or GE, same thing. Build back better. Any way you slice it. We're told Schulenberg testified that he arrived at 6:45 a.m. At 7:04, Phaedra is texting Kirk. At 7:45, Ray Roberts arrives. 7:49, Kirk texts the text that we're shown. It says, I need to get back in. And also, there's another text that says, the other doctor is in town to help. Now, supposedly, he's texting Mike Schulenberg. So who's the other doctor? Dr. Kornfeld, right? Anyway, that's at 7:40 now. Now, pay attention because he's texting, need to get back in. The other doctor is in town to help. And now at 7:49 is also that first time that Kirk is said to have called the bedroom. And then at 7:51, he makes the kitchen call. Now, according to the records, and again, I'm combining the 14th and the 21st, Prince was last seen at 8 a.m. Schulenberg's notes tell us that he arrived at his office to get his notes finished and then arrived at Paisley Park by coincidence. At 8:03, there is a $30,000 email confirmation to Phaedra. At 8:15, the all-important text from Schulenberg to Kirk to see if he was still in town. I'm always wondering why Schulenberg would be asking Kirk if he was still in town at 8:15. And then Kirk replies, hey, just waiting for him to wake up to give him something to take the edge off. The other doctor is in town to help. 8:30 or so, 9, oh my God, media, let's roll film and video, whatever it's called. It's oh my God, media, and then let's roll film and video are being contacted. At 8:17, there's an 11-minute conversation with Phaedra. Now, Schulenberg tells us that he had this on the evening of the 20th, but what I'm saying is it could have all taken place a different time. 8:17, 11-minute conversation with Phaedra. 8:30, Schulenberg texts Kirk to say he heard from Phaedra. He hopes it's legit. Hey man, I hope this stuff is legit. I'm on my way. 8:45, Kornfeld checks into Country Inn and Suites, even though he was picked up at 6:22 at the airport. They want us to believe in the other file that the check-in time was 8:45, but they all arrived at Paisley Park at 8:45 and 9 also, because it's all a different story. But anyway, now you guys can say whatever you want to say. Don't care anymore. It's a lot of research, a lot of file reading, a lot of combining the times from all the various videos and things that I have written, which is a gajillion things. And I have more, so just hang on. I get so nervous doing this because I know that people judge me, and I like to be more in order when I do these videos, but I don't know. There's so much information that is hard to get out quite straight. Now, the reason that I combined the 14th and the 21st timeline, you guys, is because it would account for why the body was stiff on the 21st, why we're told when all, like, okay, so just pretend with me if you need to. Even though I have the life after life situation and speak with the creator and all those things that I disclosed to you guys, he doesn't give me all the answers. What fun would that be? Like I said, it's just like with the Bible, you don't get all the answers, but I do have fun searching them out. It's wrong though that we have to search them out like this. It's wrong that they can perpetrate so much fraud. No, I wouldn't have been led to do it for any other person other than one of my family members, children, grandchildren. And so it's a pretty big deal, you guys. And I don't want you to underestimate the amount of research that it takes. And my daughter said something interesting to me. She said, well, man, hopefully someday they can do something with all that information. Well, I'm trying to make them understand that that's in motion. It takes time for people to grasp how big this cover up is and why. It's biblical. It involves, the DEA setup of Carver County, cover-ups of these fentanyl bus body doubles. I mean, it's the stuff like you think Game of Thrones is huge, like. And the reason is because, as I said, I met the one the world knew as Prince Rogers Nelson in my life after life, and they always say the pride before the fall. Well, this is why, because they want to humiliate. There's a humiliation plan in place for the United States for being who they are, the way they are. Everybody needs a little discipline, but that's not what I'm here for to talk about today. You guys, I want to discuss why Dr. Mancha in Moline too was let me read it. Mancha began to explain during the night shift of 4:14 to 4:15. It was a very busy shift, and they explained they were treating a gunshot victim among numerous other patients. She saw there was an overdose, and the patient received Narcan. She checked the patient's vitals and stable and blah, 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 blah. It should be noted that Dr. Mancha, during the interview, describes Prince only as the patient. Therefore, any comments about Prince will be described as the patient. Mancha stated when she entered the patient's room, she observed the patient along with a male and a female. It goes on and on and on like that. But the point is, you guys, that it talks about how she took the Bayer bottle, looked in there, sent one to the lab, said they looked like hydrocodone, but nobody ever tested. Now, couple things. Why would a doctor be unwilling to call a patient by who it was? That's because there was body doubles in place. That's because the EMTs say at first, I thought it was an older woman. Then the other one says, I could tell right away it was Prince because Prince is very distinctive is the word he used. And what's even more interesting, before I forget, I know I don't have the piece of paperwork, but both Marco Leone and somebody Rands, the EMTs that are interviewed, they're supposedly both male, I believe. However, when you read the FIOA paperwork, the EMT paperwork where I disclosed the wrong subjects, it discloses the EMT as a she. And when you read that paperwork, there's also here, let me open it up. Like I said, the discrepancies between the ages, the birth dates, the phone numbers, the 61 years old, the one says the right arm is when they did IV and the other one says the left arm. Now, here's something important. This was according to the documentation of the investigation. According to the report, upon arrival at 1:26, the patient was being carried out of the plane by a male, later believed to be Kirk Johnson. The way that they word that, you guys, they word it to make it sound like Kirk was the one carrying Prince off the plane, but then the other person talks, it was a big black bodyguard in a suit, not a they coming off in gold clothing. So it's 1,000 gajillion things from the Dassault Falcon being owned by Lifetime and all that, and Kirk using them. But you guys, more than that, let me just. Kirk's records having to be disclosed in UTC time tells us. Also, the patient paperwork where it discloses him, it asks if he's been out of the country in the last 30 days, and it says yes. I believe Canada's like a different country because he would have been to Canada. Now, I've reported before that Moline, being almost 366 miles from Paisley Park exactly, is a legal port of entry for the United States. That's where I believe they brought in the Canadian RENVILLE Wellington, and why the Canadian Mountie was involved, why U.S. Customs was contacting Carver County to get information for Paisley Park. And if you can bring in RENVILLE and friends and 2 black SUVs, certainly you can bring in fentanyl. I mean, I'm just saying. Anyway, you have the Dassault Falcon 990, you guys, but then you have the other phone call at 4:40, which if you read Kirk's the phone records that they provide anyway. Again, let me remind you that all through the file, we're told that he has AT&T phone records, but we're given these something Quest diagnostic phone records that don't mean jack. That say that he called Stephen Gagel on the 14th at 4:40 p.m. However, what I'm saying is this far in with the timeline that I matched up and all the calls that he was putting to RENVILLE Wellington / Kim Pratt at that same time, there's over 26 calls at that same timeline where you could clearly be getting somebody out to Moline to land in their plane and get an IV infusion of Narcan and saline and then get them back home to tweet out controversy, while the other one has to stay until 9:43 waiting for new pilots because they can't fly for more than 14 hours. So anyway, also during the time of these phone records, during that peak time that they try to say is PM, that I'm trying to say could have been AM, and they were trying to do this whole thing and bring in this stiff body. The protocol security 777 on Kirk's phone records is RENVILLE Wellington. They try to pass him off as security that Kirk has to contact all during those same peak hours. So yeah. And then they have somebody else, former groundskeeper. I can't remember his name. Yeah, just let's contact the former groundskeeper. Now, the thing about that also, you guys, I wanted to say about Andrew before I forget. The whole story is sold on the fact that they wanted to bring Howard Kornfeld, and he was busy, and so he sent Andrew. The one file says that Andrew hasn't graduated or taken his MCAT, I believe they're called, his college exams. And then he's like, this isn't going to mess up my career because I don't know if this is really what I want to do, and blah, 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 blah. And then he talks about having Crohn's or something like that. And then we're told in the other file and the DEA file, the 16000, you can see where they stamped it and they gave this evidence where it says that Andrew Kornfeld did graduate from somewhere in California, I can't remember, and has a specialty in neuroscience and psychology. His specialty is in brain science and psychopharmacology. And had his college thesis was on psychological trauma and interesting cures by using psychedelics. That's why he was known to have the book, The Psychedelic Explorer's Guide, on his person, along with the Ativan, Suboxone, and anal suppositories to keep a person from throwing up. Now, when he's being interviewed, he says that his dad asked him to come over to Paisley Park. He didn't say he was sent on behalf of his dad asked him to come over. And then he also, as I've mentioned a million times before, identified his father at the scene while he was being interviewed by Patrick Murphy. And he said, is your father a doctor at the facility, which would be the Ekankara Center, Shaka Khan Rekisto, across the street from Paisley Park, the facility. So we're lied to about them both being there, and that would be the reason that at 8:15 Kirk responds by saying the other doctor is here to help, and why they had all in-house doctor care at 3:41 a.m. with the text, because I think that they tried to save somebody's life, but I think that, I mean, I can't even say who. I don't know who died at this point. We really don't. We have no identity. You know, we grew up thinking it was Prince Rogers Nelson, but the Beautiful Ones book says Prince Roger. Okay. Look at all the different identities we've talked about today. Like, we don't know who is dead. We is anybody, you know, there was a stiff body. The other thing is, you got that trailer, the 14th to the 21st timeline, if somebody did die during that time, and they kept the stiff body around so that they could use the numbers 777 for the whole Davidian breakdown, as I've discussed, equaling 21. That's why they wanted to give us the dates 7, 14, and 21. But actually, when you add, I believe it's 7, 15, and 21, you get 3, 4, 1. So it's really interesting. And guess what I saw yesterday? It was interesting, and I did not know that Da Vinci was born on April 15th. So learn something new every day. Anyway, I don't really want to beat around the bush. Like, I don't think there's any reason to beat around the bush. Like, everybody's like, but what happened? I just want to know the truth. Well, here it is. It was a breakdown in place, and they made lookalikes, and I was told about it when I had my life after life, and I was the only one crazy enough to come here and talk about it, and I'm going to keep talking about it. It's why the Paul Podolsky, I don't know if I'm saying it right. It's why that file, when you read through the paperwork, you guys, and I did a whole video on this. When you're reading the paperwork, it says on 1916, 911, 611, upside down, 911. Yeah, they do it all through the file. Again, all the files that I see, our numbers start with 16. I've explained it. Anyway, it says on the Paul file, 1916, I learned about an incident that happened on 6/18/16. I don't know. I guess they learned about it 5 months early. It literally says that, and I've showed it before. In that file, Jeff Voller from the DEA states that there were no other deaths in the Minnesota area aside from Prince in a pill form, or he would have known about it. Now, you know that they're lying right there, or there's different identities right there, because the ME was known to say that there was no pills in the stomach, okay, and that there was 67.8 milligrams per NCGs per whatever, which if a cancer patient was changing his patch every 3 to 5 hours, theirs would be at like 4. And supposedly this Prince was at 67.8. So he didn't die of pills in his stomach. But anyway, it's interesting because they were running allegedly running drugs through Paisley Park and, in its clandestine Midwest location. That's why I show on my Facebook Dr. Schulenberg on the CCTV video that's provided. Do it in slow-mo. I have it on my Facebook and on here. He has the respirator breathing machine because they're doing experimentations with drugs, you guys. The intellectual property was given for a certain length of time, and someone began to be ill, and I think they wanted to find a way to hold on to that intellect, like Mr. Stephen Hawking. He has ALS. So I'm just giving you guys all the information that I found when I was in my life after life, he didn't say, hey, this, and this are going to happen, and you're going to remember just like this. I wish it was that easy. Actually, I don't, because then I wouldn't have all the fun of piecing it together, and it keeps me busy for sure. What's interesting is they said that there were no other, in the Paul Podolsky file, they said that there were no other deaths except for Prince, but Prince didn't die of the, according to the ME of the pills, it was the fentanyl, which was found in the deja blue, the pH water bottle that I discussed in the other video. And also that he mentioned that the pill presses that they knew of in California, which is where Phaedra filled out the paperwork for the NPG Articles of Incorporation, one in Oakland on Telegraph Road there, and then the other one in San Fran or something like that, before using the Audubon address in 2016. Now, what's interesting, you guys, too, is, and I believe it was 5 of 2016, I have some paperwork where she made sure that her name was taken off of that paperwork so she wouldn't get in any trouble, but I'm sure she was hired on as a representative somewhere else, who knows, like Kirk and everybody else. Anyway, the pill presses in California, you guys, they were said to have sent the pills off to the lab, and I talked about this before, but do it again, that some of the pills that they found in the Bayer bottle were found to have only fentanyl, some had only hydrocodone, some had none, and only that stuff that numbs you. I forget what it's called. I used to use it myself. So they knew what was going on, you guys. They did a real jacked up job of covering it all up. Now, like I said, I might not be perfect at explaining it because it's a lot. What really irritates me, though, is that on 11/4/19, which if you do that, it's 11419, which is 1914, hiding behind corporate eyes, family name, 1914, World War I kind of stuff. The government there, Judge Kane, isn't that interesting? Cain. She signed off on all the charges against Kornfeld and Schulenberg on that date. So if you think I'm playing about all the gematria and all the cover up and all the biblical, about this whole thing being the Merkava, it's the breakdown of America using our one and only true. And I get that it's hard to understand because it seems too easy. Like, in a way, like I always say, if I came here and said met God when I died, but I never said it was like Prince or any of the crazy stuff that people think. Whatever, people might believe me, but I'll give you evidence after evidence. I'll keep trying, you guys. I'll never stop. It's not to be right. It's not to be loved or admired by you. It's because, as I said in my intro, if they can do it to Prince Rogers Nelson, look what they can do to the world. Look why, when I talk on my holographic Super Bowl video, you guys, I'm not even joking. I think, from what I've seen, I think that the whole Will Smith thing, like the way that it's cut, like I think that he could have been like a CGI. The way that it's cut on the video, all these things are done for attention so that these people can escape and go hide and put in body doubles and do all kinds of crazy stuff. It was, like I said, when I was in the life after life and I was shown glimpses of, like, I don't know, hell, the crazy chaos place, the place where people do occultic ceremonies and change what I call skin suits, like on the Minecraft game. They can just become somebody else. It's why the One Night Alone song is so haunting. It's why in 1993 things were done, and these things are occultic, and they reach back to, like I've discussed before, the Illuminati stuff, but it's all for a plan, you guys. It's all to really disclose in a grand, funky design who the creator really is, because how when you see if you haven't seen by now. I don't know. I don't know. It just makes me smile. The confidence that I have to come here and share with you guys is because of him, because I was told. It's my job to remember now. But we can't let this happen, you guys. You can't just let him go down as a washed up singer, you know? You can't. I promised I wouldn't, and I won't, and I hope you don't either. It's why we have war right now with Ukraine. It's Palestinian. It's why the concert with the Obamas. It's a whole big thing that's happening in the world right now. But the thing that we need to hold on to most and more is that our Creator is here and coming for us, and He is keeping a watchful eye on all of us. And it has to do with the story. It just does. It does. It does. And by exposing all the lies, maybe it'll help you to see a little bit more clear how dirty they're willing to get to cover up the truth of our God and our Creator, Adonai Elohim Emet, the one and only truth. It's deep, you guys. Consider it, share it, watch it again. I always want to be a little more eloquent, but it just wouldn't be me. Love you guys. Thank you for watching. Just continue to watch the videos, and thank you, because I see the numbers growing and I appreciate it. It feels good to know that even though they're not in the hundreds of thousands, that some people are listening. And hopefully you listen to the whole videos, because a blip isn't enough. So I'm going to go. Thank you for being here, everybody. I'll be back.